Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Live from Freedom Fest 2016, Las Vegas, Nevada at Planet Hollywood. You're listening to the SHR Media Network. It's a new day, black and red, with your two hosts, the exceptional one himself, Ken McClenton, and the other guy who kind of looks like Santa, the underground professor, Dr. Michael Jones. Gentlemen, take it away.
Thank you so much, Sean. We will gladly pay you your minimum wage for your production work today.
Amen.
Wait, I saw his press card. He's got SAG media credentials, so we have to pay him scale.
Oh, my goodness, which is a little less than minimum wage. Yes.
I don't think he's been on a scale in a while.
The old pot to the cat.
Hey, but Santa's supposed to be fat, buddy.
Ladies and gentlemen, New Day Black and Red from the great
I like those guys.
City of Las Vegas. We're at SHR Media headquarters here. I am the exceptional one, Ken McClenton, the underground professor, whom I am a peon to, merely attempting to get along a society serving him. And did you like the M&M, sir?
Yeah, I don't know if I should tell you or not, but those are Skittles.
I am so glad you found that out. I will work on the M&Ms for tomorrow. Yes. New Day Black and Red, which is a program that's geared to give you both a spiritual aspect of it as well as a constitutional aspect of current events and issues today. I will be supplanted a little bit later on in the show by none other than the great blogger himself, Mark Zeppelin, who is known as BZ. He will take over my portion of the program because I have been invited by Mark Skousen to sit on a panel later on this evening. And I owe it all to the underground professor for kindling my great expertise in the area of constitutional studies.
So basically, you invite me to do the show with you, and then you abandon me.
Yeah, well,
and make me carry it.
Don't look at it as abandonment.
So I guess I'll take the spiritual.
You will take the spiritual this evening because you are the Lord Reverend Doctor.
Yes.
Michael Jones, and I wish we had gospel music to play behind that.
Well.
And Mark,
we got it when my show began.
Yeah. Mark, I know it's a great song. Mark Zeppelin will take over the constitutional viewpoint.
Well, tell everybody what you're going to go do. You're going to be a jury member on a trial.
I am going to be a jury member on a trial at 7 p.m. Pacific time, the left coast time. I was invited by Mark Skousen to sit on the global warming on trial here at Freedom Fest. My wife and I, Mrs. Biggs, will be sitting on the jury.
Now that's so that you know where she is.
Yeah, I have to watch her because you're here. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a great guest for this particular evening as well. And it is a great honor to have this young man here.
I probably shouldn't have to tell you because you've done radio before, but talk into the directional mic.
I apologize. I will talk into the directional mic from now on.
Right. Our tens of listeners want to hear you.
No, they want to hear you.
Isn't it nice to be here at Freedom Fest? I'm so tired of always being the pretty one.
You are the pretty boy.
I know it. So this is nice here. There's others. Yeah.
But all the women are chasing after Clint because he told them he was Sacco.
And the professor, just so you know, he looks like remember Trading Places, Dan Aykroyd, Santa?
Sure.
Like that, food and beard.
Beard and everything, same coloring, yes. Dirt and all. Yeah, everybody thinks that Clint was on Chips.
Yes,
yes. I think they have a real celebrity here.
We have with us a very good young man.
Yes.
Who has broken through the limitations on the barriers put before him to achieve a great success. Why?
Because life has beat him up. He's already 18.
Yeah, already 18. Wow. Entrepreneur. Just a general great guy overall.
He's not a general yet.
Yeah, well, we're going to advance him
sure.
just for a few moments.
Book
we're going
writer,
to
just a
advance him.
sergeant.
Politician. Never say just a sergeant.
Never.
Because the military is the backbone is sergeants. We're the ones who keep the officers alive long enough to tell us how to go die. Yeah. So.
Hey, McKee is
Yes,
with
sir.
us today. It's a great pleasure to have you on the air.
Yes.
Thank you for having me, guys.
And tonight we're going to talk all about the book, so the SHR guys don't have to worry about it.
Well, he did give them an easy reader version of his book.
Sure. I asked for the large print. He said that it didn't even occur to him to make that for old people. And, yeah.
You're young in spirit.
I was using a typewriter.
Okay, now for our audience, the youngers, that's a old mechanism that you push a button and a key strikes the paper through a ribbon.
Wow.
So you'll find those in the Smithsonian.
Yeah. you
Yes,
will.
I was actually at the Smithsonian when I came to visit you, and you wouldn't spend any time with me.
Well,
So
that's because
on my birthday, I went up and I went to the Smithsonian, and I saw they actually had a typewriter. I was like, oh my God, I'm freaking old.
I want you to know that I had
Soon you're
intended-
going to be in the Smithsonian.
That's right. They've already asked me to exhibit.
Well, that's not the only thing they've asked you to exhibit at the Smithsonian, but
hey, this is an SHR.
welcome to New Day Black and Red, Mr.
Yes, sir.
McKee. It's a great pleasure to have you on the air with us tonight. Sir, you have achieved great success.
Thank you.
And most people would say that was an improbability based on your youth. And so I want you to tell everyone exactly the success that you have achieved and what were some of the things that you overcame to reach that achievement.
Yeah, I mean, I did success by starting my real estate company and doing network marketing and learning how to do stocks all by myself. Like, no one taught me. A lot of kids my age probably inherited their money.
Yeah.
I didn't, but that's not an excuse of why I'm where I'm at. A lot of people have limiting beliefs like, oh, I don't have enough money, I don't know enough, I don't have all these connections, like. But I really just broke all those barriers because I figured out that it was having those limiting beliefs is the reason why you're where you're at.
Yeah.
So if you just say, "Oh, I'm poor," like, you're gonna stay poor.
Yeah.
You're not gonna go any farther because you think that's all you can do, and you think that life happens to you instead of life happening for you. So
Exactly.
I feel like everything that I've done has led me to this point of where I'm at.
You know, being an entrepreneur takes a great deal of discipline.
Yeah.
You know, a greater deal of discipline than actually showing up for work.
Yeah, it takes a lot. I mean, I have my discipline, and then if a lot of things, people need security. So
Yeah.
people, like, if you want to have security, you can get yourself a little job, you can get yourself
Yeah.
a little minivan, you can get yourself so secure, and you have to have the security in yourself, like, oh, I'm going to get to this place no matter what, I don't need security. And a lot of entrepreneurs, become homeless and they kind of make it.
Yeah.
So you don't have any security. Like, you don't have a job. You don't have. I work an hour. I get this pay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I structured where you only have 24 hours in a day, but when you have 100 people working for you for an hour, you have 100 hours. So that's just stuff you got to think. That you just got to think out of the box.
Well, the whole idea, the concept of delegation, it can be a little bit, awe-inspiring in itself. I mean, there are some people that fear releasing things to other people with the expectation of getting anything back.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of everything. When you're an entrepreneur, a lot of things are negative.
Yeah.
So I've noticed, like, if you ever know what crabs do when they're getting boiled, like,
Oh, he knows.
yeah,
Look at him.
when the crabs are getting boiled and one crab tries to get out of the bowl, the other crabs pull him down. That's kind of how
Yeah.
humans are. They kind of just, I don't know the psychological part behind it, but when you start to do things, they just kind of get really negative. Maybe in a different way, my parents are just wanted me to be, like, secure. So,
Yeah.
like, me doing all these things and investing tons of money into real estate, it's not very secure, but it has a reward and it has risk as well.
Mm-hmm.
So they just want me to be safe. So
Yeah, that's true. Real
Yeah.
estate's made more millionaires and more paupers than any other investment strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But it depends on what you're doing, how you're doing it. Everything has risk, but the beautiful thing is that you're taking the risk, and with your own money. And if you're successful, you get to profit off of that. And if you're not, then you're the one that pays the price. The problem with today's society, and we're not just talking about the youths of America, we're talking about every generation in America, there's this belief that government's role is to mitigate risk and to protect us from even ourselves. So how would you address that from your perspective?
That government's trying to keep everything
level. Yeah, they've lowered the level on all of us, but their role as protector over everything versus someone who, like you, that's fresh out of the gate, has ideas and wants to profit, wants to create business, wants to do all these things. How are you finding government's willingness to allow you to do these things? Or your peers or unions or anything that you may be coming in contact with?
Yeah, I haven't really completely worried about the government as a whole. Like I just say, like everyone's getting taxed equally. Sort of. That's a speculative, but
you didn't see my tax check.
Yeah. So that's why I probably wanted to pick conservatives a little more, because they lower taxes, and I mean that's a hard question. I mean, of course I want to get taxed less and profit more. I don't really like giving my money to the government because I feel like they spend it not as wisely as I could spend it.
They're inefficient, but I don't mean just taxes. I mean regulations, control, approval, allowing you to do things. The government is involved in every aspect of our lives.
Yeah, in a way, it's like I have to worry about the bank probably, but that still is sort of the government. But I have to worry about the bank. So what I do is the bank regulates like foreclosures, so they could just buy properties and kind of take them from you. So that's just another obstacle that you have to overcome, and you can't really blame it on anything. It's just like it's kind of just something you have to push through like anything else.
Are you your real estate investments, are they foreclosure?
Yeah, well, at first I started with like vacant houses, so I would buy them before they got foreclosed, and then trade them to a whole.
So you're one of those guys who runs around buying ugly houses.
Yeah, that's me.
Okay.
Well, it used to be sort of, and that's how I started off. I used leverage, and then I'd sell them to those rehabbers.
Yeah.
And then now I kind of want to move to either commercial or multifamily, where it's not usually you don't have to worry about headache so much.
The discipline required to become financially successful is not as easy as people glean it from television shows and things of that nature, or even the infomercials. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes a great deal of time. And one of the things I wanted to remark to you is that regarding someone who gets a job, they're concerned with their family. You go to bed every single night worried about not only just your family, but 100 other families that are under your responsibility or stewardship. I wanted to get your thoughts or your feelings regarding what you feel or what you go through in terms of providing employment and opportunity for individuals, because you're willing to take a risk that other people aren't.
Yeah, I don't have too much employees.
Yeah.
I more have partners that are also doing what I'm doing at a risk.
Yeah.
So I haven't gotten too many employees where it's all on me.
Yeah.
It's more like.
But still, you put your name on the line. You put your reputation.
Yeah.
You put everything on the line for the other person who's coming in underneath you.
Yeah.
In that regard.
Yeah, that's true. Really, they just kind of. I haven't had a problem where I've had like something crazy happen.
Yeah.
Maybe it might get tough, like something didn't go our way, but then we're always moving up to something else. Like we never let one thing, maybe a house didn't fall the way it did, but we're always moving on to a different house. So I just really got to push through and kind of come through that adversity of, you're going to fail, but I'm also working on other projects too. So, I mean, if that answers your question.
Yeah. Well, in a nutshell, you're taking a large responsibility for other people taking a smaller responsibility of risk to get to where you are.
Yeah.
you paid the price for them to eventually get the reward.
Right, but he shouldn't get rewarded for that. That should go to the
government.
To the government.
To government.
Yeah, I knew where he's going with that. Sure. Yeah.
People always try to get ahead of the professor.
I think another good deal about being an entrepreneur is people chase money. Like when you first think of like that I made money, that's what you chase it for. So you really got to have something other than that. It's any sane person would quit. You really got to love what you do truly, and any sane person would quit after all the adversity that you go through just for money. I mean, to me, it's just a piece of paper.
Yes.
Like, to me, it's more like just a check mark. Like, oh, I have money, so what else am I doing? I'm donating. I'm going on the radio. I'm meeting. My main goal was to be around the smartest people in the world, and fortunately,
and now you are.
Yeah, and fortunately, I achieved that goal at a pretty young age. So, it just happened pretty quickly, and I did it by just adding value to people. That's what that's what I said on the podcast. I mean, I really want to add value to younger kids my age and kind of teach them things and just tell them how I did it, and just teach them that you can break through these limitations. So part of that, you need a strong why. Like, why do you do what you do? I want to figure out why you do what you do. So it's like when I was, in middle school, I mean, you guys went on field trips, and you got up really quickly because you're going on a field trip. Yeah. So, but
Ken's old enough that he went on the Grand Creek field trip. So we call it the Canyon now.
When you're getting up on a normal school day, you're tired. You're getting up at the same time, but what's that spark that's getting you up? Yeah. I get up every day because I love what I do. It's not, I don't get up every day because, I'm going to make so much money, I got to get up. I mean, because if you fail and you don't have money, you'll never get up.
Yeah, exactly. Now, how old are you, Walter?
I just turned 18.
18 years old. And you have a business that's successful as an entrepreneur. But there's some 18-year-olds right now who sleep on their parents' couch waiting to sign up for Obamacare. What makes you different from that particular individual?
And Wyatt, you can answer that too. Walter doesn't have to answer that if you
I
don't want
apologize.
to.
Oh my God.
I mean, I think it's just...
I apologize.
I'm sorry I had to do that. It's just worth the look.
So, I think it's just, they might not love what they do. I mean, maybe it's just they do have those limiting beliefs. Possibly, I'd have to know exactly the scenario.
Yeah.
To say anything, but I mean, I've had scenarios where they're like, I don't have enough money to do this, and it's not that you don't have money, but you're trying to think on a different scale. You need to think creative ways how to get money instead of just dwelling in that you don't have money. So.
Exactly. So,
well, I asked him earlier how he found time to write a book and do all these things when he was living in his mom's house in the basement playing video games.
I mean,
age 18. I mean, wow, I'm impressed.
Go ahead, Wyatt. You can answer that.
The basement part?
Yes.
I mean, I hardly play video games at all. I mean, I wish that'd be cool if I did have time. I do not live in my mom's basement, but I found time at night. I wake up around 5:30. I write, and then I meditate. I do meditate, and then I go work out around 5:30, and then I start my day with that by looking at houses, kind of finding deals. I start, and I'm also getting an education too. Education is a big deal of what I do, so I get my education. I go over to my mentor's house, and we do stocks. That's around 12 o'clock. And then that's when I write around 12 o'clock, around lunchtime. I also write later in the day around like 1 a.m. and then that's probably when I go to bed.
So you're using every single moment. I mean, it's like you have this pattern in which every moment is unscrupulously used for profitability. You have that pattern in place.
And not money in profit.
Yeah.
Profit in other ways.
Yeah, very profitable.
Existential, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about 2 hours if you sleep in 2 hours every week,
yeah.
and then you think about that on a yearly scale,
Yeah.
that's days.
Yeah.
So I just think about it like that, like even 1 hour. Like
It's 104 hours. That's
Yes, it
4
is.
days. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And you
It's
value
perspiration, not brilliance, that makes success in America.
Yeah.
It's just so easy to be successful in America, but you have to show up.
Yeah, you do.
I think
gotta
that's
show
the
up.
message that we don't have, and the youths of America don't really see that. They,
Yeah.
when you talk to 18, 19, 20-year-olds, and they think they should be the CEO of Walmart because they have a high school diploma, and I run into these guys. It's like, when I was young, you started in the mailroom. You started as a peon. You threw papers. You did something, and you worked your way through. But even then, most of us had that mindset where we would go get a job from somebody else and then stick with it for 30 years and retire. So it's refreshing more than I can tell you to meet people here, and you're not unique here. Of people who are young who decided they were going to be their own boss and they were going to be the ones creating jobs.
And I mean, sometimes they might fail and live like on their mom's couch, but you are going to fail. I just honestly, like, however hard you fail, I feel like the farther you bounce up. So if you fail and don't try to bounce up, you're never going to bounce up. So
is that a joke about him?
No. Oh my God.
Just asking.
New Day Black and Red with your great host, Dr. Michael Jones, and your beloved peon, the exceptional one, Ken McClenton. And forgive me because I think I made an error in terms of your name.
No.
I didn't?
No. He legally changed it during the show to Wyatt.
Wyatt.
From Wyatt to, what did he call you?
Walter.
Walter.
Yeah, Walter. See,
like Walter E. Williams.
Yeah, exactly.
It's hard to tell you all apart.
You look exactly like Walter E. Williams. No, Wyatt McKee is with us this particular evening. He is the author of a book regarding the profitability of his work as an entrepreneur. Tonight we want to talk with him about him overcoming whatever, or at least giving the idea of what it takes to overcome limited beliefs. And would you define for us, Wyatt, what a limited belief is?
Okay, if you say, like, you don't have enough money, you'll kind of just dwell on why you don't have money instead of thinking of ways you can get money. I mean, there's people that have money. You have to, present to them. It's just how bad you want it. Mm-hmm. If you like, we know who has the money. You just got to get them on the phone. So if I didn't have enough money to buy real estate, I'd do a hard money lender. And then they charge me probably 14% interest, and then I just flip the house and still make money. Nobody wants to.
Yeah.
No one wants to have that awkward confrontation, like, "Hey, I need some money."
Yeah.
Hey, but Wyatt, I need some money.
Well, you'd have to present to me why you need money, and I could possibly invest in you.
Can we go with that line right there in terms of limited beliefs? Mm-hmm. You were willing to present your idea to someone who could have said no.
Yeah.
And a lot of people aren't willing to go beyond the first no.
Yeah.
How were you able to convince lenders to support your idea of raising funds to refurbish or rehab a home and then sell it for profit?
Yeah, I mean, they kind of just met me. Also, you got to think about maybe this is another good example of entrepreneurship. It's not that the product. It's not that you don't invest in the product. You invest in the person.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So they found out who I was specifically, and then we looked at houses and we found houses, and he invested me because of my hard work, and I was finding houses at such a young age, and he's never seen something like that before.
Wow.
So I think that's how it started.
That's what amazed me is that someone with no track record and young,
Yeah.
But on the other hand, you haven't had time to screw your credit up.
Mm-hmm.
So, like the rest of us.
I don't even have credit. I don't have a credit card.
Yeah.
Wow. So you this is very impressive. Not just the whole concept of you selling yourself to hard money lenders who were convinced that you had an idea that was workable. You didn't shy away from presenting your idea, and you didn't shy away from getting the results. Were you more demanding, knowing that there was a hard money lender loaning you the money than a bank?
Yeah, I definitely feel comfortable with the hard money lender more than a bank. I mean, the bank is kind of trying to screw you. The hard money lender is just doing business with you, and it's more like, I mean, we still do business together. It's more like a mutual thing. So like, we'll go on, instead of him investing 100% in me, it's like more like a 50-50 deal now.
Yeah. So you're willing to give up something in order to get something. It's virtually what you're trying to do with the hard money lender.
Yeah.
In terms of taking advice from the hard money lender, which is very difficult for people to do, is to take advice. Why were you yielding in terms of taking advice from him or her?
Oh, my hard money lender?
Yeah.
I mean, they taught me a lot too on real estate. I didn't know much. They taught me about how to find. A lot of people in real estate find houses.
Yeah.
But really, you're finding a situation. So you're finding someone that's a motivated seller that's going to sell their house for cheap. So you're finding a situation. So they taught me that, and I really enjoyed that they gave me that value. So that's why I pursued continuing to do business with them, because they added value to me. So they really taught me a lot about how to find those situations.
Now, and just to piggyback on that, was there ever a time they said something to you that you thought was just, I can't take that advice, but you found out that they were right?
Huh. Not on the top of my head.
Yeah.
No, not possibly on the top of my head.
Yeah. So you trusted their expertise and experience.
Yeah.
And you were rewarded for that particular trust.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably, if we tie back to why entrepreneurs, some of them are on the couch. I mean, I just kind of got, I got a good situation where I was doing business with a good person. I mean, if you're a good person, you usually attract good people. If you're a crappy person, you usually attract crappy people. So I've also noticed that as well.
Holy heck. Thinking about my ex-wife, that doesn't speak much of me.
Or me. Wait a minute, you're on my show.
I wasn't your ex-wife.
Wyatt.
Who?
Wyatt.
Oh.
I said Wyatt. I didn't say Walter. Thank you very much. See, I
thought you were going to confuse him. You're like, his name's Walter.
I was trying to do that.
That would have been funny.
Wyatt, first and foremost, what is the name of your book, and where can people get it?
Gen Z Politics. The book.
Yeah, describe that too, because
okay,
that got past me in the first show.
Oh yeah. Okay. So yeah. So I wrote it because I noticed that like states are growing up liberal, states are growing up Republican, and I just kind of was confused by that, you know, and it's just mostly on like what their parents are telling them. They're getting like one view on something, and they're just voting. So I don't really care what you believe in. I just want to know why you believe in it. So I wrote the book, and I say like liberals' view on gun control and like conservatives' view on gun control. I tried to hit every point, and like immigration, everything, so that they pick for themselves instead of them kind of getting one point of view. And it kind of happens, even though I watch like multiple media. Outlets. Some people just watch one and they get one point of view on something.
Exactly.
So that's what I tried to do. And a lot of kids my age were like, "Go Bernie Sanders." They're just like, they don't even know why they're voting for Bernie Sanders. They're just kind of like a hipster thing to do.
Yeah.
So I feel like we're losing policy over emotion too.
Yeah.
So
does it help that you were able to take a risk at a very young age, that you saw what it took to make that come to fruition in terms of successful business?
Yeah. I mean, also, you just kind of got to really execute. Like I have absolutely no business writing a book.
Yeah.
So, but I just did it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say you got to be like some genius author. You don't. Like I just decided to write the book, so I'm publishing it in December.
Wow.
Explain the title.
Gen Z Politics. Well, really, I'm not sure. Like I thought I was a millennial for the longest time, but really I didn't know I was so young. So I'm actually a Gen Z. So
yeah.
Yeah,
Generation.
That's not JIN. It's Generation Z. Is Gen Z.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
See, when I thought he was speaking Japanese, and the word rolled right in my head. And I was like, oh, yeah.
Because we learned a little Mandarin earlier
Because I think there's Generation Y and Generation X, and I think baby boomers are somewhere in the middle between that. I'm actually investing in baby boomers. I'm not kidding. It's because I'm investing in retirement homes. So
that's brilliant.
Because there's so many baby boomers. Where the heck are they all going when they're getting retired?
Exactly.
So that's another project I'm on.
Listen, Wyatt. See, I said the name right.
It's because I put the card in front of you.
I can't read it from there. I'm old.
Go ahead. This is great airtime. Go ahead.
Wyatt McKee, thank you so much
You're
for being on our
welcome.
program.
I love talking to you guys. I'll probably be
You're not
back
going to
at
ask him how he's investing in Generation Boomers?
No, we're going to have him come back.
Generation Boomers.
Generation Bloomers?
Generation B.
B.
Generation Boob.
Invest a whole lot in that one.
If you sign your email up there, it's a raffle.
Terrific. Thank you so much for coming on the program. We'll have him come back a little bit later on this weekend. In fact, you'll be here for Freedom Fest. Okay. Yeah. Talk a little bit more about the book and to give you the opportunity to get that first copy of the book before it's released in December. Am I correct?
Yeah, next year I'm probably doing a signing here. So
awesome. Yeah. Absolutely awesome. So
make sure we'll get your contact information.
I'm actually speaking to next year as well. So
ain't that something?
See, they never ask me.
They never ask.
It's because I'm white.
No,
he's white. What am I saying?
He's not white.
He's Wyatt. Wyatt. Why are you have to bring race into everything?
Congratulations. Great job, man.
Thank you.
Very proud of you.
Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah.
New Day Black and Red, live from SHR Media headquarters at Freedom Fest 2016 here in Las Vegas, Nevada.
How do you feel doing a show without commercials?
Oh, I feel
I'm so proud of you.
I am so naked right now.
You're probably okay because I figured you haven't ever had to talk this long, but you're going to leave us pretty soon. It's already almost 7. What time is it you got to leave?
I have to leave at 1:15.
Okay, well, it's 18:35 right now.
I have 10 minutes, and don't push me off my own show yet.
So tonight we have guest Ken McClenton.
Sitting in for Ken McClenton tonight will be none other than our great and most beloved new blogger and contributor to SHR Media, Mark Zeppelin. Mark Zeppelin has nothing but nice words to say about me, Professor.
No? Well, that ought to be fun.
Now, we want to welcome you to New Day Black and Red, live from Las Vegas, Nevada. There is a big story that's out right now in France.
Yes, that's sad, isn't it? What's the latest, Mark? We've heard up to 100 people have been killed by a truck driving through it, and then shooting occurring as they got out of the truck. They started shooting people. And on Bastille Day.
On Bastille Day.
A very big Muslim holiday.
Why is Bastille Day so important?
Well, the Bastille was a prison in France.
Yes,
and so they celebrate its being knocked down and all the prisoners released. And because they're French, I really haven't paid much attention to it beyond that. Let's see, Nice, not Nice.
Or nice.
That's nice Nice. If you have a niece that's nice, I guess, yeah. So dozens were killed, according to this I'm looking at right now. And a lot of injured. 50 people have been killed, at least. And there was gunfire between police and suspects. Sadly, this is France, where only the criminals and cops have guns.
Yeah, unfortunately.
So it's the only people that could be shooting at each other. In Texas, this would have been a lot less people killed.
Yeah.
And let me see, the crowd was in the Promenade des Anglais, which is the English promenade. Or English, not promenade doesn't mean street, but it's kind of like that.
Yeah.
And there were at least 100 people injured. They drove a flatbed truck through a lorry. They drove a lorry through a crowd of people. 30 people were killed by the truck at least, and they think another 20 or so by the gunmen. There's piles of bodies in these pictures. Now look at this.
Oh, this is disgusting.
Yeah. This isn't Hollywood either. These are real people. And you wait. because tomorrow we're going to have Obama come out and apologize for America and that we need more gun laws in America to stop these things from happening
in France.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
Nothing says terrorism like gun control. Now, want to ask you in terms of this, is there any information regarding who the shooters were?
I'm going through this right now.
Okay.
See, Bastille celebrates the storming of the Bastille from 1789. To put that in perspective, that was when we were ratifying our Constitution.
Exactly.
And a lot of repeated stuff here. Let me see. Truck rammed the crowd, and more people ran. And let's see, what else? I haven't seen anything about names or people in this thing.
Yeah, we probably won't. The whole objective is to try to keep certain names out of the paper, out of the picture.
I didn't catch anything in there about Muslims, but it is. And they did reference the fact that Muslims killed 150 people last year from ISIS. Oh, here we go. Terrorists, they are calling it a terrorist attack.
Okay.
And they are Tunisian.
So they couldn't possibly have been Mohammedans.
Or Tunisians, as you would say.
Tunisians.
Tunisians.
They couldn't possibly have been Mohammedans. Then.
No,
because they're from Tunisia, which is in northeast Africa.
Yeah.
So they had to be Catholic or maybe Hindu, right?
Now, they're saying it was a individual. So if this was America, we'd have been calling him a lone wolf already.
A lone wolf already,
but
yeah.
They think he may have had accomplices.
See,
there's no names here yet.
A flatbed truck, was it?
Yeah.
And may have had accomplices.
See, in the wake of the attack, Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg have created a safety check feature on social media for express grievances for the victims. So that's that actually, if I understand that right, what that is it keeps like the sheetheads from getting on there and making angry remarks to the victims,
or owning up to the fact that they did it.
Right.
Yeah. So because you don't want someone coming out on Facebook saying that they actually killed.
Right, or that it was glories. Because that's what happened after 9/11. They had all these guys coming out on social media and such as they were back then, AOL or whatever we had back then. But they were celebrating in the streets. And lately, you see these things. Then what we have are the Islamic sympathizers are piping in to glorify these actions in the name of Allah. Yeah. Agador is asking if we're listening to chat. We are not. We don't have the situation we're set up here, Ag. We're just blind talking into microphones.
Yeah.
Because the sackheads people aren't here to help us.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, we have gotten word that there was a terrorist attack in Nice. Nice. Nice.
What is that?
France. Now, France doesn't seem to be immune to terrorism. And apparently they haven't learned their lessons from the other two occasions by which, whether it was Charlie, or even a more recent one. Apparently it seems a ready place of hitting, even with the suspension of constitutional rights in a police state. Terrorism seems to be exploding.
Sure.
In Europe.
Well, you think about it. If you're going to do these things, wouldn't you prefer to do it in a country or a place that they unlikely to be able to shoot back at you for a while?
Yeah.
The goal is to spread terror and to kill people. So in France, people like me standing in the crowd won't be able to do anything about it because they're unarmed. Only the cops. Even their army tends to carry around a white flag and an unshot rifle. So, it's not like there's a lot of protection in
and a copy of the road that's traveled.
Yeah. And the thing is, exactly, the thing here is France should have learned their lesson and repealed all their gun laws and said, you know what, we can't protect people.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is government can't protect us from terrorism by design.
Exactly.
And it's not even their function. Cops can't protect us. So the only thing that's right is that we have a right to protect ourselves. It comes from God. It comes from our humanity, not from government. So government doesn't have a right to prevent us from protecting ourselves. Notice that when the ragheads came over into Texas and they tried to mess with Pam Dobler,
Geller.
or whatever her name is, the
Pam
cartoon
Geller.
thing, we shot them dead.
Yeah.
And have you heard of another terrorist attack in Texas?
No.
Okay, no.
Well, actually, yeah, there was.
Yeah.
That happened to be last Thursday.
Yes. But it wasn't foreign.
It wasn't a foreign.
Right, it was domestic terrorism. But it was terrorism.
It was terrorism. Yeah. That domestic terrorism, which was created because of a misreporting that white cops were killing black people in St. Paul, Minnesota, and in Baton Rouge. So because black people were being killed by non-white, but white people got the blame.
Right, it's a Mexican.
They were Latino.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Or Hispanic, however way you wish
El
to say.
Sombrero Taco Day.
Yeah, whatever
Mexicano.
it is.
Yeah.
Because I understand. Listen, I have to decide on whether I'm African American, Negro,
Scottish.
colored, or black.
Or Scottish.
Or Scottish, yeah.
Sure. So, regardless of the fact that, Black Lives Matters is telling us now all life matters is racist. I don't know what's not racist, to be honest, but if you look at the statistics, a black person is safer from a cop than a white person because more whites are killed numerically by cops than black people.
Yeah.
But the problem is black people, and we're going to generalize here, but out of the two races of white, black, Mexican, and Asian, out of those two races,
both of them.
Right, both of them. The blacks have the most interaction with cops.
Yeah.
And they have more interaction with cops than blacks versus whites and Asians and Hispanics combined.
Yeah.
And that's even in Texas, where we have more Hispanics than we have blacks. I mean, it's 14% black, 28% Hispanic, right? So with that, blacks still have the most interaction with cops. And if you are living a thug life, you should not be shocked you're having a confrontation with a cop. And if the cop has a right to go home and see his family and stuff, if you're not obeying cops, and this is what we keep seeing, we see these videos on TV of cops telling whites and blacks to stop, to put their hands over their heads, to lay down, and they're being disobeyed. Because somehow in this country we decided that we do not have to obey cops.
Yeah.
And then they get shot, and we're shocked. And I would even posit to say that now blacks have added to basketball and football, the third way to get rich is to have a confrontation with a cop by lottery. If you survive it, you're wealthy. If not, then your family gets all the money. Because somehow we're going to sue and blame everybody else for our breaking the law. And they always forget the fact that most of these guys broke the law. They are criminal, right?
Exactly. In Baltimore, when we have the Freddie Gray incident.
Right. That's the I Can't Breathe guy, right?
No, that was Eric Garner.
Oh,
up in New York.
They all look alike.
Yeah,
thugs,
we all do. But we were told that
my God, look at that sexy chick over there.
Oh, isn't she beautiful?
Wow. Homina.
Hey, baby, would you like to marry me?
Peaches is no, thank you. But
you're interested in Peaches.
Yeah,
there you
go. Peaches just walked by everybody.
Mrs. Biggs.
Yes.
Okay. But we have a scenario and a situation here where in Freddie Gray's case, the civil action was settled before the criminal actions. $6.4 million reward. Hello, CJ Saylor.
We got to give him a switch side.
Sure.
CJ Saylor from Young Americans for Liberty. We have a scenario where civil action was settled before criminal actions, but the criminal actions are 0 for 5.5. We haven't got the actual case distinction yet, but the expectation is that the last of the 6 police officers that were accused of malicious activity towards Freddie Gray will be getting off. So virtually...
And remember, there's a difference, because in civil, it's only a preponderance of evidence versus a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, but if we even look at the case that Marilyn Mosby put together, which she will probably lose her license to...
As she should. Haven't they asked her to step down or something over that?
They have asked her to step down, but she refuses. There has been a challenge by a law professor in Baltimore that maybe she needs to lose her license.
Yes, she should not be able to practice law.
No, she shouldn't.
That is just heinous what she did to cops. And as a cop, I don't think I would ever work for her.
Even more heinous is Judge Hackett, TV Judge Hackett.
Aptly named.
Yeah. Yes, she is a Hackett. Coming in and attempting to sue St. Paul, Minnesota, civil and criminally for the actions of the police. And it's easy when you can do that. You can publicly make your testimony against the police without any corroborating evidence. But quite frankly, from even the case in Baton Rouge, you're looking at a situation where the police were right or will be found to be right. And as you were saying earlier, the families will look like they will be paid off.
Yes. Yeah, I'm laughing because I talked about we were broadcasting blindly, and
Yeah.
Ag said that we're in his department now.
That's right.
Yes.
But we make this look good.
It's 1849 hours. You got 10
All
minutes to get in there, so you're already 5 minutes past.
I'm already 5 minutes past.
Yeah.
Listen, taking my spot now is the beautiful and incomparable
That's right.
Mark
The
Zeppelin.
Exceptional Conservative 2.0. We are upgrading, ladies and gentlemen.
Good night and God bless.
Thanks, Ken. We'll talk to you. Have fun in there. Remember, it's the sun that causes global warming. And politicians. Yes, sir?
Hello, my name is Jim Lakely. I'm the communications
Oh.
director at the Heartland Institute.
Yes, we're live on the air right now. Yeah. But, let me see your book. All right. We have here, Mark, can you guys share that mic?
I think we can.
All right. I don't know what, or you can turn on another mic. I don't know how to do all that junk over there. That's Socko stuff. Why scientists disagree about global warming. The NIPCC report on scientific consensus. I like that term, consensus. Yes. Just because enough of us agree on something, it doesn't make it right. All right. And who do we have here? We have
I'm Jim Lakely, the Director
Lakely.
of Communications at the Heartland Institute.
Heartland
That's
Institute, which
one of our
published
most-
this. Yes.
Which published as one of our most famous books. And did you watch in the Senate when all those Democratic clowns were basically saying that people who disagree with the consensus on global warming are
Deniers?
deniers and
Yes.
should have the government go after them and be
Right.
investigated?
Meanwhile, we have people that are out there Holocaust denying, and that's free speech.
Right. Well, the Heartland Institute, we're proud to have been a star of that clown show, and they
Yes.
mentioned us dozens of
That's
times.
where I heard about you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we're actually doing a second edition of that book. Another 500,000 copies is going to be going out by the fall. And it basically it arms the public and you guys with the truth that there isn't a consensus. That whole 97% consensus on global warming is bunk.
Well, yes.
And that book explains why exactly
Well,
it's bunk.
before you get into the fact that the consensus is bunk and the science, why would we care that there's a consensus in the first place?
That's a very good question. Well, first of all, consensus and science should be as far apart as oil and water, frankly.
Exactly. Science is a scientific method.
Correct.
It's something that is repeatable in my lab, and if I send my data to you, you should be able to replicate it. Is that not right?
That's right, yeah.
So, but global warming, the weather guys can't even tell me what the weather is yesterday accurately, let alone tomorrow. So why would we base policy for 50 years from now?
You're a pretty smart guy. You got to figure it out.
And good looking. I just
Well,
have it all.
You do have
Yes.
it all. But, the fact, so the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, they've been putting out climate models. We can see them now for 20 years. None of them have been right.
Right, ever.
Ever.
Well, as a professor, I challenged a guy from the UN. I forget his name, Nabib or something like that.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's just another suit from there. We were debating, and it was a Christian Coalition thing, and we had a little debate. And I asked him if they could take one of those models that they were predicting, and he was doom and glooming it. And I said, could you take the data and let's pick a day, like yesterday, where we know what the weather was, and we have all the data to put into it, all accurate, no guessing, no assumptions, and we put it in your model, what'll happen? Well, the thing is it will predict doom and gloom.
That's right.
And we know it wasn't global warming catastrophe yesterday, so why would we base policy?
Exactly. I mean, you can't. You're very astute because a lot of people don't even know that fact that you can put "quote unquote" accurate data.
Excuse me, I know
back
both
into
my
it.
parents.
But those models are wrong frontwards and backwards. You can't even put correct data in there and have it come out correct. But after 20 years, these experts have been telling us gloom and doom about global warming and that we have to change the way we live. We have to rearrange our economies in, surprise, a socialist way.
Right.
In order to protect ourselves from a gloom and doom that they have not correctly predicted for 20 years. There's actually a record you can look at.
Right.
But they still continue on. And in fact, that they call names, that they are trying to use the gin up RICO investigations against the likes of the Heartland Institute and our friends at the Competitive Enterprise Institute and places like that, is because they're desperate. They know they're so losing this debate because the science does not back up what they want to do.
So
that
why
now
are
they're
they
trying to lop the heads off of the people that point it out?
Why are they investigating Heartland instead of the University of East Anglia, which gave us that fake hockey puck crap that everything's based on?
Yeah.
Not hockey puck, hockey stick.
The hockey stick, yeah, that was Michael Mann at
we all
Penn
know
State,
that was all fake by their emails. We've learned this. So why are we still trying to base policy on that and punish people by law for saying that?
Because we have a corrupt government. It's run by leftists, and the bureaucracy which supports it. It's a racket. People say, "Oh, there's you guys have all the money. All you deniers have all this Exxon money and this Koch brothers money." Look, the scientists we work with, if they wanted to get rich, they'd be warmists. That's where the money is. Where do you think all these grants come from? From the government and from the Soros, George Soros and Tom Steyer. All the money is poured into.
Right. If I want a research grant, that's where I'm going to go, and I'm going to have to find global warming.
Exactly.
Look what happened to the NASA.
Yeah.
All of a sudden they found global, not warming, but those holes, whatever. Remember the
ozone
holes?
Holes.
The ozone holes.
That's right.
Yeah. Miraculously, those started occurring all over the place, and NASA got funded.
Yeah. The Heartland Institute, we've put on 11 international conferences on climate change. And the scientists from around the world that we've worked with, we've asked them, and they've actually spoken about it publicly. I can't get a grant if I say that I'm actually trying to see what the science says. You get a grant if in the application it says, I'm going to prove human impact is catastrophic on global warming. That'll get you money every single time. If you just want a grant to say, I want to observe, or actually, here's a good one. I want a grant to observe why and how inaccurate the climate models have been for 20 years. Good luck. You're not getting a grant for that, although that could be very important research. Yeah, no interest.
So what happens if you say, I'm going to prove that cow farts create ozone holes? You'll get funding. But what happens if you come back and say that it isn't? That it's actually Democrats or something causing ozone holes.
You're going to greatly disappoint your funders.
Right.
That's what's going to happen.
It dries up, right?
It does dry up.
You lose tenure.
Yeah, you lose tenure.
Because I've heard a lot of professors that consensus is a myth anyway, but there are a lot of professors out there and research scientists that have lost tenure by challenging this.
A lot of the scientists that the Heartland Institute works with are on the older side. A lot of them are emeritus, or they have tenure and are really brave and can come forward and they're protected. But a lot of younger scientists, they will tell them privately, I know this is all BS. I know this isn't the truth, but I got to feed my kids. I have a career. I'm only 40. I have a career ahead of me. I can't sabotage myself and get fired.
You got to publish or die.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's what will happen. And you brought up an interesting point, about the mandate of the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change was not to find out what is happening to the climate. Their mandate in the bylaws was to determine the impact of human activity on the climate. From the beginning of this entire movement, it was cooked.
Yes. Yeah, stacked. You're right. So my question is then, when you talk to these guys in debates and stuff, I like to point out that there weren't automobiles in the 1700s, and yet we have record temperatures, and we have ice shelves melting, and we have ozone holes back then.
Sure.
So how do they justify it? This is interesting. You may not know this. The audience does, because I've taught them this, but during the debates on the Constitution, so we're talking 1776 to 1790, there was a debate going on amongst our founders and framers of the Constitution about global cooling. Mm-hmm. And what they had done was they had taken statements of the Bible and they had made determination of temperatures and stuff and where places were and what were their temperatures versus not, and they were determining global cooling, which was the prevailing thought all the way through the 70s.
Do you know why that was? Because
Yeah.
it was true.
Yes.
Do you know why? Do you know why it was such a tough winter in Valley Forge for George Washington?
It got cold.
It gave us
Yeah.
damn cold because we were
That's
right.
still
in what was called.
If they'd have had more cows farting up there, they probably would have been all right. Yes.
Well, maybe not. But in that period, it was what science called the Little Ice Age.
Yes.
And in fact, we've been warming from that ever since. So you don't see. I mean, look at drawings of London in the 17th and 18th centuries. They're ice skating on the River Thames.
Yeah, on the Thames, right? Yeah.
If the Thames was to freeze today, people would lose their bloody minds.
Yes.
Yet it was a pretty common occurrence. And yes, we are warmer than we were 250 years ago, even 100 years ago, even 50 years ago. It is part of the natural variation. One of the things that your listeners should pull away from and can, tell their friends or people that don't really think about this issue is that, yes, humans may have a small impact on the climate, but it is so small. It is a fly moving against the wind of natural variation in the climate. We don't even understand what we think we know about the climate. It is so complex.
Yes.
But
I think it's hubris of us to think that we could change it. God's got a system that cleans everything.
Yes.
But the problem here is we think whatever this temperature is the only right one.
Right.
And we forget the fact that the Mideast, which is nothing but desert and oil now, was a metropolis of green gardens and grass. And so it was beautiful.
Yeah.
And the whole world keeps changing and cycling.
Yeah, the Tigris and Euphrates, the cradle of civilization. Do you really think it was a desert?
Right.
All that time?
Life started there.
Really? It seems a little hard scrabble to me.
Yeah. So, oh crap! I had a point I was going to make. I forgot what it is now. I was going to ask you a question on something. I just had a brain fart. Mark Carrick, take line.
I hate that.
I completely spaced it. It's off.
Isn't there a meme that I've read recently where now some climatologists are thinking that it's not global warming, maybe it's really global cooling?
Again, we're going back to that?
Going back to that? Well, frankly,
because we're coming out of the Ice Age, like you said.
Yes,
Yeah.
we've been coming out of the Little Ice Age for 250, 300
Right.
years, to one degree or another. But yes, there actually are a lot of scientists that the Harlan Institute works with very closely in a lot of our conferences and the materials that we put out. Willie Soon is, in fact, one of the leading solar scientists in the world, works for the Harvard Smithsonian in Boston. And he has been noticing very low sunspot activity. In fact, it's almost record low when it comes to the cycles for these things. And so with little solar activity, you're going to get cooling. And in fact, for most of the last 20 years, it's been a flat line. There hasn't been any global warming at all. There's just been a slight bit. Again, that's mostly natural variation. I like to, when I speak about this sometimes in public and to young people, like I said, if you're 18 years old, you've been told your entire life through high school that humans are causing global warming and it's getting out of control, we're all going to boil. But actually, you've never experienced global warming. It has been a flat line since the day you were born.
Right.
Yet you've been told the exact opposite. So yeah, there are people that worry about global cooling, but do we actually understand how or why that would happen? No, because most scientists are humble and know that there's a lot that they don't know. And so we are looking at that through sunspot activity, and ocean currents and cycles also affect, keep the temperature down in different ways. So yeah, that's something actually to worry about. And as a matter of fact, it could be a degree or 2 Celsius warmer to now, and it would be a lot better than a degree or 2 Celsius colder than it is right now. And it's kind of hubris to think, as Al Gore says, who made Al Gore the master of the thermostat?
Right.
He only his hand can touch it, right? And he has the power. So we're
on his Gulf 3. Yeah.
Right, and we're going to set the temperature right here because this is the perfect temperature.
Right.
Well, says who? And it's hubris. It is absolutely insane to think that humans can control the climate in that way.
Well, global warming I thought was a good thing because the Little Ice Age gave us Frankenstein.
Yeah. Well, that's why we had the torches.
Right. And but that's Agador brought that up. But I have a 5-acre farm, and to me, as a farmer, global warming is a benefit because it means more sunlight, and global warming means more crops. And so this isn't a negative thing. Just let's say, for our argument's sake, we have global warming. Oh, okay, great. So it's a little warmer. We get more products out of our ground, which is what the ground wants, which is what the food wants. And we like eating.
Yeah,
so
eating's good.
Right, so I don't see there to be a negative. Now, if we shift 5, 10, 15 degrees, that's a whole different story.
Right.
But I think I was working on a science fiction book, and the premise is that we did not prepare for global cooling, and we were preparing for global warming.
Oops.
And then it became an ice age again, and we had no way to heat the place up or to take care of this stuff, right? Because we were so afraid of the other. And so I started that book on the concept of a letter I saw that I think Heartland was responsible for, which was that counter letter of all those scientists, the PhDs and hardcore scientists like the humanities and sociologists that signed that letter of global warming. You guys, didn't you have a counter letter that actually had ecologists and weather men and stuff that were coming in here?
Yeah, I think you're referring to the so-called Oregon petition.
Yes, the Oregon petition.
Right. And a friend of the Heartland Institute, Alan Robinson, helped promote that. But it wasn't Heartland's petition, but we helped promote it. But yeah, there's more than 31,000 scientists, including Edward Teller, Nobel Prize winner and one of the most brilliant men of the 20th century, who at one time did say that he was worried about runaway man-caused global warming. And then the more he looked at it, like looking at the data,
right,
a scientific kind of thing.
And there's a lot of it there.
And there's quite a bit. And he changed his mind. He says, no, I'm not concerned about this at all. And in fact, I'm concerned about people overreacting to this thing that isn't happening. And he had very, very much come to that conclusion before his death, but it's on the public record. So there's 31,000 and some of the most brilliant men in the world.
These policies that we're doing are affecting people's jobs, and it's costing us billions of dollars to comply with global warming free, what's the word I want? Regulations and protections, and so this isn't a small thing. There's people not working today because of this.
Yeah.
And yet we're basing this on policy, and people laugh at me when I say that. Now people like me could go to jail for that, for bringing this up. But I think what's interesting is even with all that, the global warming side is having defection after defection. There's top-level people here. There's people at NASA that have resigned. There's weathermen that, have come out. Not weathermen. What's the word I want? Meteorologists that work for, like NASA or work for the government weather reporting agency or whatever they call that now.
Yeah. We have had 11 conferences. A lot of meteorologists have come up to us and say, they're telling me I have to mention global warming every summer and all this other kind of stuff. And I avoid it if I can, and I'll do it so I don't get fired, but I don't believe in any of this garbage either.
Because it sells.
It sells.
It's like bleeding.
Yes, and there is immense government pressure to toe the line on this issue. I mean, yes, the idea of United States senators standing in the well of our Senate that belongs to the people. They work for us. We don't work for them. We're not their subjects.
They're servants.
They are our servants. They're there to work for us. And they have the gall to stand there, say lie after lie after lie about the Heartland Institute and other free market think tanks that have worked with scientists who are actual scientists who care about data, and to say that we should be investigated, that they should sick the Attorney General after us, and that we should have our donors exposed so that the left-wing mobs can go after them and protest on their lawns. How dare they do that?
Yeah.
It gets me extremely angry, and every American should be angry about this.
You should never have appointed the emperor had no clothes.
That's exactly right. I mean, it's not illegal to speak against the state in this country, is it?
Right.
Apparently it's becoming that way on this particular topic.
The Alien and Seditions Act has been re-implemented. A lot of that's still in effect, by the way. It was never removed. Especially the parts about the aliens.
Yeah.
The sedition, not so much. They did recall the sedition, but the Alien Act is still an act. Yeah, it's still there. But you'd think John Adams is president, right now with these things. You can't talk bad about the government. You can't talk bad about political issues that one political party is more prone towards supporting than others. And I see that. I mean, look, groups like us, like when I applied for a 501c3 for my UGP radio and the umbrella group of education things that I do in my products, we went through a scrutiny like you would not believe.
I believe it now.
I'd rather have another prostate exam, because that was a lot less intrusive than what the IRS did to me.
Yeah.
But I'm glad to see there's organizations out there that are going to stand up and defend us, because this isn't about silly science. This isn't about global warming. This isn't even about funding or public policy. This is about freedom.
Yeah.
This is about our constitutional rights that our government is intruding upon. This is about eminent domain and taking people's property rights because of these policies.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. Yeah, it is about First Amendment. It is about freedom. It is about property rights.
And Fourth Amendment.
And Fourth Amendment. Yes,
Yeah.
it's about all of that. And it's about, the government doesn't have the right to do these things. The government is setting policies that are confiscatory in our wallets, on our land, and of our freedoms, all based on the lie that humans are causing catastrophic climate change, that just is not happening and it is not going to happen. Yet they continue to pound this. Why? Because they want your wallet, they want your land, and they want your
Control,
freedom.
yeah. That's what makes me angriest about this. It's one thing to try and say, okay, this is what I believe, and I'm going to try and get you to support my belief. It's a whole other thing to jackboot thug it on me and punish me when you and I both know, not you, but them and us both know it's a lie.
Yeah.
And that's just, I keep using I probably overuse it, but the word hubris just doesn't even go far enough.
Yeah.
And I just don't know a better word.
Well, your listeners, all they need to do is go to heartland.org and
Yes.
find the Why Scientists Disagree book that we have. It's free. You can get it in PDF form and read it on your phone. It'll arm you with the facts so that you can fight back at this intrusive government with knowledge. And not just rail against not just shake your fist against the wind, but be able to tell them. In fact, I know that Sheldon Whitehouse has never read this book. I know that Barbara Boxer can't even cite any of these things. They appeal to authority.
Well, they
authority
have to pass this before they can read it.
Yeah, that'd be nice. But they just appeal to authority, as if Al Gore or the scientists of the the IPCC at the United Nations are the hand of God. This is the word of God has come down from the mount, and now we must do. Hell with that. The science doesn't back it up, and the public can easily arm themselves with the facts they need to put an end to this madness.
Have you seen that picture? It's a mural. It's got God's hand, the one with God and Adam. But Al Gore is Adam, and he's laying on top of a Gulf 3, which is the most polluting plane ever made by man, right?
Please tell me he has clothes on.
No, he's naked. He's got a little towel draped along his loin, but that image I can't ever get out of my head because it is so accurate, as to the way he's treated on this.
Yes.
I don't get it, and I don't know why. Well, I do know why, because there's a lot of power and a lot of money involved in this, and it's not just grants for people to research this money and source money. This is riddled and interwoven into the Democrat Party's command structure for getting elected. These people get a lot of money, and they have to support this because they would be withdrawn. So they don't care about the facts over this because it would cost them their job.
Yeah.
And I can't think of another reason. You don't need another reason to why you should vote these people out. My goodness, you hear about these things. Talk more about the property right issues, the Fourth Amendment things that this thing is affecting.
Well, I was actually having a conversation with another libertarian here at Freedom Fest. Yeah.
What, here?
Yes, yeah. Heartland's our libertarian think tank. We do have libertarian friends. Tell everyone.
Yes.
But, we were just talking about, so if you dig a hole on your property and it rains that night, you're screwed because you now got yourself a waterway.
I won't even spit on my land.
Yeah. And so the global warming, the thing about man-caused global warming and why it's so great for the people that want to grab your liberty and your land and your money is that it's the catch-all. Global warming believers, especially in the government, are often referred to as watermelons, which are green on the outside and red on the inside.
Global warming believers?
Yes.
Red on the inside, like commie red?
That's right. Green on the outside and red on the inside.
Well, I've been saying that green is the new, or the red is the new green.
Yeah.
Or how do you say that? I always say it. Well, how
green is the new,
I always say it. Yeah.
Green is the new red.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. So
I do voiceover work for Audible Books. So you should pick me to be your voiceover for this, and we get this on Audible Book. And I got blind followers that are talking that you need to get that in an audio format so they can hear it.
I was thinking about it. I thought my voice was good enough, but I'm not a professional like Mike Jones.
No, never. So. Yeah. You need a dulcet voice like me.
I
can get Barry White low,
and I can't even fake that. So,
Mark, I monopolize this. Go ahead and talk.
It's your show.
Hey, what? No, it's Ken's show.
Are we on Ken's time?
He just pretends that it's my show.
I thought it was your show.
Because Ken has the number 2 urban talk radio show in the world. I have, of course, the number 1 urban talk radio show. And for the download listeners in Washington, D.C., listening to Ken's show, we are talking to Jim Lakely from
the Heartland Institute.
I was going to say Heritage. I was like, no, that's not right.
We get that from time to time.
Ken gets everybody's names wrong, so now I've contacted that disease. Why scientists disagree about global warming. So, what is 3 things that Heartland is doing right now to fix this?
Well, we are producing 500,000 copies of Why Scientists Disagree About Global Warming.
Second edition.
Is
there enough to be updated to be worth getting?
There's going to be a new forward. There's going to be some new data in there, and actually a few color charts instead of black and white charts.
Oh, and going all out.
Yeah, crazy. And we're going to be distributing this to we have lists of people. So every television meteorologist in the country is going to get a copy. There's going to be 20.
How about politicians?
Politicians.
Yes. Yeah,
every member of
go.
Congress, and especially state and local elected officials.
Do me a favor, when you mail out, put a little pocket Constitution in there, too. Maybe they'll read that for a change.
That's a good one. Twofer.
Twofer.
Read this book at the Constitution free.
And I got to point this out. I'm interrupting you, I know, but I got to point out the difference between this and a lot of books I read about global warming. You're footnoted like crazy.
Yes.
I mean, and you don't even bury them at the back. You stick them at endnotes each chapter.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know why? Because we get all this information from the quote-unquote peer-reviewed literature.
Right.
The stuff that we produce that shows that humans are not causing a climate crisis are not made up. They're not pulled out of the air. They're not written to us on napkins from some guy in Sheboygan.
I mean, think about that, because you know how hard it is to get peer review when you go against this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, actually what you will find when you look at the peer-reviewed literature is that an abstract on the front of the study is often quite different than what's actually in the report itself as far as the data they have collected.
Some of my fellow professors that write on this, I've talked to them, and their abstract, which is a condensed cliff notes of what's in their study, make it sound like global warming exists, because they know that no one's going to read that except for other scientists and stuff. But when you get into the data, it's contradictory almost.
Right. I mean, and the thing is, global warming exists.
Sure.
Man-caused global warming, or the fact that man is causing global warming to be catastrophic and run away, that is never even been close to be proven. And so, I appreciate you noticing that all these footnotes are in there, and they are from the peer-reviewed literature in the scientific literature. And so, when you read these things, you see that a lot of the whole idea of consensus is garbage. 97%. We showed the 4 different ways that they got this 97% number, and it's all garbage. Again, one of the people looked at Naomi Oreskes. She is not a scientist. She's a journalist or a professor who studies science from the outside.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's kind of like a sports reporter.
It's a sports reporter.
Yeah, it's a sports reporter.
ESPN. They can't play, so they write.
Yes. It's a guy who writes about baseball, doesn't play for the Yankees.
That's what they say about us teachers. We can't do it, so we teach it.
Well, slightly different. But again, she looked only at abstracts and titles and decided, and by her own criteria, 97% of people disagree.
Well, in her behalf, I have to argue that she was correct by the abstracts.
Perhaps so.
Yeah, but the data
in them does not show that.
Right.
And in fact, if you ask, there's been some of the scientists who were included in the paper she cited and others had cited as saying, you agree that man is causing catastrophic global warming. They're on the record as saying, no, I'm not.
Yeah,
and no, I didn't. And that's not
to
what
that.
it said.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's quite a bit. Another person that found the 97%, there were 2 graduate students at the University of Illinois who did an even shoddier Google Doc search for these kind of things, looking for keywords.
Which is weighted for pro-global warming.
Sure, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
That's
Again,
conclusive.
You're going to get that. And then there was a blogger from Australia who did even shoddier work, and then there was another graduate student at Stanford who did equally shoddy, like Google search term, quote-unquote research.
Right.
And from those 4 very weak, wobbly legs, we get the President of the United States saying, actually, he's upped it. He said this about 6 months ago. 99% of scientists agree that humans are causing a climate crisis. That is garbage on stilts.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
It's a lie, yeah. I wonder if our president would also be up there toting that consensus in this country once was pro-slavery. And that was okay, even biblically supported. That was a consensus we had.
Yeah, it's a pretty it was.
And the Supreme Court even said it was. Yes.
Even go further than that. Of course, the progressive movement in the early 20th century, eugenics was all the rage.
And abortion.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
The consensus is that we must rid the human race of these awful genes and these undesirables.
Yeah.
Yes, Margaret Sanger. What is
the
Planned
creator,
Parenthood about?
Planned Parenthood.
Exactly.
Precisely. Thank you.
So you shouldn't put your faith in consensus or what the mob might be shouting or whose wallets might be getting thicker for it. You put your faith in science. You put your faith in reason. And when you do that, you cannot but conclude that humans are not causing a climate crisis, that Al Gore and the other of these people are lying to you. And why? Because they want into your wallet, your land. They want into your wallet, they want into your land, and they want into your freedom.
When I debate global warming, don't go too far with that, Sean. Yes. Has a bottle of Jim Beam in his hand. I use what I call the coffee argument. And that is that science, since I've been alive, has at least on 12 occasions said that coffee's good for me, and on 13 occasions that coffee will kill me.
Right.
And so just depending on who's paying for what study and when it is and what day of the week it is, coffee is either good or bad for me.
Right.
And if that's the level of science we have, and that's more accurate, by the way, than global warming science. And and so, how many things Einstein said we have not been able to prove one way or the other. But some of the things that he has said, we have shown since is wrong. And that's real science. I mean, that's brainiac science right up there, right? So a lot of the things that we think about, and you go back, there was a consensus that the world was flat at one point. Some people got killed over that debate, right? Mm-hmm. And science, but it wasn't just a bunch of sociologists coming together and and we laugh about it today, the Flat Earth Society, right? But that was very hard science, and the scientists did their best with what they had to knowledge and math and astronomy to come up with these things. And my point being is that today we're not much more advanced than the people who were predicting the Earth was flat or was on top of a turtle's back before that, going through the heavens. We think we are, and we think that whatever it is our science does today is the be-all to end-all. But our grandchildren are going to be laughing at us. Our science fiction today will be science fact.
Yeah.
Or balderdash. But, I think a problem we have is that we take ourselves way too seriously.
Oh, yeah. I that's a wonderful point you come on, because I think about that all the time. I'm 46 years old. And,
so you're a babe.
I am just a tiny little baby compared to you fellas.
Yes, well, I've been around about 3,000 years.
But, do we have more accumulated knowledge today than the people alive during the Enlightenment, for instance, or the Renaissance?
Yeah.
Yes, of course we do. Are human beings inherently able to think better, and are we inherently smarter because it's 500 years in the future? No. Leonardo is one of the most brilliant human minds in recorded history.
Right.
And I wonder what he would do today if he was brought forward into the 21st century instead of where he was.
Accused of being a Freemason and laughed at.
He certainly would be. But
I would argue that you're
I'm sorry.
You're thinking, oh no, it's mine. I like talking over people. I do it to Ken all the time. Jim, I would argue that with our collective knowledge and stuff, we actually know less. And I call that the PhD argument. The more degrees I got, the less I knew. Because I get more and more focused. Your associate's broad, and you get all the way up to PhD. It's on one little tiny thing. I'm incredibly brilliant when it comes to the founding of the country, but I know nothing else.
Right.
So
we're all specialists now, even intellectually.
And there's just too much out there for us. But when our Constitution was being debated, we had a 95% literacy rate. We don't even have 50% today. And people understood those words in the Constitution.
Yeah.
We didn't have to dumb
did.
it down, and make it a Dr. Seuss book for them to figure it out.
Yeah, a farmer and a printer understood the Constitution as well as the founders.
Boom, yeah. And they were the ones debating it, along with lawyers and politicians. They were the lawyers and politicians were farmers and whatnot. But I would argue that because of public education, we are less capable of understanding the things that we have. And so we are more trusting when you put somebody that's degreed, some egghead like me out there. Well, all of a sudden, it's not what I know, and it's not who I am that is making my data, and it's not my data. It's the fact I have a PhD after my name, or it's the fact that I work for a science company. What's the name of that group? Rush Limbaugh used to, I don't listen to him anymore because I don't want to copy him, so I quit listening. But back when I listened to him, he used to talk about them, the Center for Science in Food or something like that, and he called them 3 men in a fax machine.
That's right. Yeah. They told us that movie popcorn was going to give us an instant heart attack, things like that. Yeah.
And ruined it, and ended up killing us because we went to trans fats because of them.
Right.
Instead of the healthy coconut oil, which now they want you to smear all over your body.
Right.
And by the way, I do pay extra for that.
Definitely. No, I think that's a good point. As you were talking about the foundings, the founders during that time, and people being smart enough to understand it. I used to, I guess, if you start collecting something, you always do. Although I haven't had one in a long time, but old textbooks like from the late 1800s,
yes.
And the average eighth grader, somebody with an eighth grade education, in 1900, is way smarter actually and more equipped to be a rational, intelligent human being than somebody who graduates from college today. I mean, remember the series The Civil War, and they would read the letters that these soldiers would write home.
Right.
Holy
You have to translate them today.
You do.
Yeah.
You would have to put you'd have to put captions underneath with emojis on them so that kids so they could understand them.
Emojis. I love that. Yeah, I have actually seen documentaries, and they show the letter, and then in the script it explains what they're saying.
Good God.
And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. But back then, 8th grade was the last grade of school.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then you went to college, or you had to
went
go
to a trade or went
work
to,
or something. You had to become a vocation.
Yeah.
That I found, like a lot of people did in radio, I went and dug up one of those old tests. And when I was a professor, I used to, on day one, I would take that 8th grade test, which was the high school equivalency exam, right? And I would put it out and give it to my students, and I would tell them, if you get an A on this, I will mark you present for the rest of the semester, and I will give you an automatic A. I've never done that because at best, I think the absolute best I got was 2 answers on these tests. 2.
Holy moly.
And most of them I got zeros on because they couldn't answer a single one. And I found a test that I had never seen before and read it on the air. It was a 10-question thing, and I think I got like 4 questions. Right?
Wow.
But to be fair, they were questions like, in the Battle of Antietam.
Sure.
I was like, oh, okay, well, I know about the Battle of Antietam, and it's Civil War's out of my expertise. But my God, we had people in the 1890s that were being asked this question about the Battle of Antietam and asking what, Sherman did. I don't even know if Sherman was there, but, they would ask about what strategies the generals employed and stuff. And we think, well, why don't we ask those kind of questions? We're sending kids to jail for eating a Pop-Tart into a gun.
Yeah.
But they're certainly not going to bring up this kind of stuff.
No.
For
Socially,
knowledge.
it's not important anymore.
Yeah.
No. And another thing I thought about when you brought about the founders was look at Benjamin Franklin, of course, one of our founding fathers, and he was a brilliant man, and he was well-rounded. I mean, he was an inventor, he was a scientist, he was a printer, he was a tradesman, he was a statesman.
He's also a sex god.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had it
He
all.
was a sex symbol of his time.
I had heard something about that.
Renaissance man. And where are those people today? And even in science today, you have a lot of specialists, even in climate science, as a matter of fact. And that's where you get a lot of disagreement. It's like, I'm an astrophysicist. I think we are discounting the, I'm not an astrophysicist, but you'll have an astrophysicist say we are discounting or barely even counting the effect of solar rays and gamma rays, and the universe has weather, and it hits the Earth, and that has an effect on our climate. No, I am an oceanographer, or, and I study the ocean, and I can tell you the currents are being. So you have all these people.
Yeah, ask the dinosaurs about that.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Oh, and I'm a meteorologist, as in meteor hitting the Earth, and so we're all going to die anyway. But you know what I'm getting at. You have all these scientists. In fact, climate scientists. There's no really such thing. You shouldn't really call anybody a climate scientist.
Right.
For the most part, they are either a physicist, or they study the oceans, or they study the air, or they study space, or they're a geologist, and all those sorts of things. So, like, you have to bring all these things together because it is such a complex system, and we're not even close to really, the idea that we're going to have a unified theory of the Earth and why the climate changes and how we can change it back. That is as fantastic as trying to put somebody on the moon using a car.
Yeah.
It's just never going to happen because it's just so complex and so hard, even within the disciplines, to understand what's happening, let alone bring them together.
I have a question for you and Jim. And I think I have a general answer to it, but where do you think that this little tsunami began. I submit that it began in the 60s with one particular individual. Where do you think this climate change built? I submit that I think it started with Paul Ehrlich.
Yeah, Paul Ehrlich, and then Time Magazine doubled down on it with their global cooling.
I mean, it didn't have anything necessarily to do specifically with climate change, but it brought that genre into focus for the leftists.
Well, also look at this. If you go back and you look at it, you'll find zero population groups. You know, the ones that don't want any more human beings because we're not part of nature. We don't belong on this earth. And you look and they had a close tie to one another. And there was a schism after that, but yeah.
Yeah, that guy standing on the street with the sandwich board that says "The end is near."
Yes.
Yeah, that's Paul Ehrlich. That's everybody on the left. They've been doing it, as you said, for 40 years now. But the population bomb, in which he said, I haven't read it, or I should say skimmed it in a very long time. But I think his thesis is that the Earth could not support more than 3 or 4 billion people.
Right.
And that when we got to a certain
China
point,
has that many.
Right. And when we got to a certain point, it was going to collapse like this. We were going to have massive famine, and that we were going to go from our population of what it was to down to like 1 billion total humans, and then it would start to even out somewhere there. He didn't.
Don't forget, scientist Brad Pitt said that we had 10 years left before all the water would flood, America or whatever. Remember that?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh, in fact, Al Gore said that the Arctic
shelf.
Well, yeah. Well, no, the Arctic, the ice cap on the Arctic, on the top of the Earth, would be completely ice free by 2009.
Yeah, it was 2009. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
in
right.
the summertime, it would be ice free. Well, that didn't happen either. So they have all these catastrophic predictions.
We have more Arctic ice today than we did then.
Yes, yeah.
And we also have more caribou when they put the pipelines in Alaska, and we have more, what was the other one? The other thing, that trifecta they had.
Polar bears?
Yeah, that too. But just about everything they predict is always wrong.
Yeah, it is always wrong. In fact, we're having record... one thing you have to remember when people talk about ice caps, I think is important to point out to your audience, is that we only really know... And we've only really been able to measure what the ice caps look like as far as ice extent, as they call it, since about 1973. Why is that, do you think?
That's the point exactly. Yeah. How can we base any predictions for the future upon such a limited amount of factual measurements from such a minuscule amount of time?
Yeah, it was 1973 that the first satellites to observe the poles were put up, so we could see what was happening. And Dr. Fred Singer, who is one of the co-authors of Why Scientists Disagree About Global Warming, actually worked on that program and put those satellites into space. So he knows what he's talking about. Yeah. But you were absolutely right, Mark. We can't. When you hear the media say or somebody say, it's a record low for ice extent or ice on the Arctic, it's like, no, the world didn't begin in 1973. It's been around for a very long time. In fact,
these guys think we've been around 10 billion years too, not 6,000 or whatever.
That's right, 6,000.
Yes, right.
Well, one of my favorite photographs is a picture of, I think, just after World War II, of an American submarine rising at the North Pole on open water on the North Pole.
Right.
So there's actually been a lot less ice on the North Pole in the summers than we have had today. And in fact, if you look at those 40 years of data, yes, we've had some dips in the amount of ice in the Arctic, but it's well within the normal range
we knew
what
that
we
during
observed
World War
for
II.
only 40 years.
The subs up there, they went. Yeah,
exactly.
So we found that out when we tried to figure out how to start bottlenecking the Soviet Union after World War II.
Yeah.
Who's to say that these waves aren't normal? What's normal? Does anyone have any idea of what's normal?
Well, I don't even think there is a normal.
What are the
expectations?
Yeah. They're saying this as compared to normal. Normal as compared to what?
As to what their funding told them to. See, that's the thing is while we can't really see a change in the last 200 years in, say, America, there's been negligible. It's almost not even measurable. But we know, like I said earlier, that there were places that are deserts today that were garden spots, and places that are garden spots. I mean, look at all the places we find dinosaurs. And like, how did they get there? So we just don't understand what we're looking at.
And to say that we can make accurate conclusions with a limited amount of knowledge that we have, as you gentlemen both indicated, that is absolute hubris.
Yeah. I'm being asked for you to talk about the solar film shield between the sun and the earth. I think Kodak made that.
The solar film shield between the Earth.
What was it? Color or chrome? I forget.
Kodachrome, yeah.
Well, I am actually not a solar scientist, nor do I play one on the radio.
Yes.
So,
are you familiar with that? I know about ozone and stratosphere.
Sure.
Crap,
I mean, of course, the atmosphere is very thin. Solar flares have an effect on. That's why we have aurora borealis. And so
which is why Congress should ban solar flares.
I think they should. They're pretty dangerous,
right.
along with guns.
Yes.
Guns and solar flares, just to be safe. But I don't have any expertise in that particular field, and I'm a person who knows a lot about this through my job at the Harlan Institute and being waist deep in this stuff for almost 10 years. But the sun has a lot. In fact, one of the books that we have here on our in our display here at Freedom Fest is The Neglected Sun, as it happens. And it's written by two German scientists. The Harlan Institute paid to have it translated into English and republished, that talks about, as you might imagine, the neglected sun, how science is not looking at the effect that the sun has on the Earth's climate nearly closely enough. Because when there are these kind of large activities of solar flares or huge sunspot cycle, there's big variations of what happens on Earth. So well, if that's what we've seen in the past, perhaps we should look at that. Maybe that's the real thermometer for our climate. Maybe it isn't, but we're certainly not looking at it close enough.
And I don't want to brag, but they stole my work because I determined that the closer we are to the sun, the warmer we are.
Yeah.
And the farther away we are, the colder it is.
That's why it's so warm on Mount Everest.
That's why I only worked on Christmas.
Solar flare activity determines what, though? If solar flare activity goes up, what are the results that we see down here? Or do we even know?
Well, solar intensity is probably a better way to put it.
That's
I'm kind of going on memory what Willie Soon and I have talked about quite often, the great scientist from the Harvard Smithsonian. But it's like solar intensity is actually down right now. The radiant intensity is down, so that might be helping us keep a flat line for the last 20 years.
Yeah, fewer sunspots than we used to have.
Sure. So
but
you could Google
maybe
that.
We should regulate that too, because the sun probably should only have a certain amount of spots. Maybe we should send some retina A up there or something, or aging spot things.
Well, I mean,
it's only fair.
All right.
You're joking, but these geniuses, these masterminds, these guys who have it all freaking figured out.
Right.
Once advocated collecting soot and putting it on the poles to cool the planet down.
Right. Yes.
Or I'm sorry, to warm the planet up because it would absorb more of the sun's rays and warm up the Earth.
Brilliant.
Yeah, and so I'm glad we didn't try that idea. I think that was from the 1970s. So.
Yeah, I remember during the global warming crisis of the 70s, they were talking about putting mirrors up in space to redirect light onto the polar caps.
Yeah.
And that suit thing, and it was
lots of ideas.
Third thing, I think. Yeah, there's a lot of great science fiction.
Yeah, we're not going to be geoengineering the Earth anytime soon. We just don't have. I mean, it's again, hubris is a great word, because the idea that there's this massive hand we could put on a thermostat, and if we all just got together, if we all worked together, like Obama and the leftists always want us to do, we can form one big giant hand and put it on that thermostat and turn it half of degrees Celsius to the left, and then we'll all be saved. That is madness. That's crazy.
We got breaking news. Nest is developing a new thermostat to put in Antarctica. Yeah. So it will have one of those where it will learn how we live, and it will adjust the temperature.
Nest?
Yes, Nest.
To me, that means the Nuclear Emergency Search Team.
No, to me too. Yeah, the guys that run around sniffing out for. Yeah. All right. No, Nest is that little thing you put on your air conditioner controller. And it learns a little bit after you use it a few times what temperatures you like and when you're home, and it detects when you walk in the house. And you can go on your phone. Like my son-in-law will get on the phone and turn the house to where it's warmer or cooler by the time he's leaving work, and the house will be right. So Nest has got a real. It's not cheap either. They're like $300 for the thermostat control thing, but it pays itself off, according to my son-in-law, who knows almost as much as I do about everything.
I'm a techno-Luddite.
I think that's a redundancy in terms, isn't it?
Yes.
Techno-Luddite, but I like it.
It's why I coined it. Thank you.
I like that, yes. What do you want to talk about, Jim? Anything that we didn't get? want to cover? Anything specific?
And thank you for dropping by.
I lost your business
Dropping
card.
by is a nice way to put, elbowing you out of the chair so I can sit in front of the microphone.
That's why we have two hot microphones.
Oh.
This reminds
Two
me
chairs.
of women at a Walmart Black Friday sale. The way you guys were fighting for that.
You were very polite to somebody who basically cowboyed himself onto your program.
But
I like it. Are you live? Good.
Let me tell all you people something. Listen up.
but it was fun.
Well, I'm glad you did that. Yes.
Well, we just want to tell you, if you're not familiar with the Heartland Institute, we didn't get a chance to
talk
proper
about that,
introduce. We're a 32-year-old free market think tank based out of Chicago,
So you were
Illinois.
like 10 or 12, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was 1984 is when we were. I was 14, but I wasn't with them then. I've only been with them since 2008. But we were founded by free market economists of the Chicago School. Who followed Friedman and Hayek and their correct ideas on
Right.
the way the world works in economics, and decided that the Midwest needs its own national think tank to talk about free markets, to advance the principles of liberty, and to work like the Dickens to make the government smaller. Now, we have failed on that third point. But we sure do work very hard to express the principles of free market economics and liberty, and we've been doing that for 32 years. And we don't just do.
I was going to say
climate
this
issues.
must just be one little slice of it. Then
it's just
if that's
one slice.
What you're saying?
Yeah.
You're correct. You're correct. I mean, that's what we're known for globally. The Economist magazine, of all things, called us the world's most prominent think tank promoting skepticism of man-caused climate change. Senator Whitehouse of Rhode Island, just on the floor of the Senate the other day.
They have senators?
They do.
Ah.
They get two of them. And one of them happens
And
to
one
be
representative, right?
Yes, and one of them happens to be a pretty dumb, petty little tyrant called Sheldon Whitehouse,
Yes.
who said that the Heartland Institute called us reprehensible.
It's an alleged dumb petty tyrant.
Yes.
Somebody
For
had to
legally-
teach him that word,
Yeah,
though.
we're going to put that on our website too.
Yeah.
I mean, but we're known globally for climate change because we have brought all these scientists from around the world together who thought about the science, thought about the data, and said something doesn't add up. But they didn't know this other guy in New Zealand was doing the same thing, or this guy in Spain was doing the same thing, or this woman in Australia was doing the same thing. The Heartland Institute back in 2008 brought these people together. We created, frankly, a network of skeptic scientists who come together. And for that, we are forever punished by the professional eco-left who come after us. But we don't just do climate. We do education policy where we push for vouchers and charter schools, anything to break the monopoly of the public school unions. We, of course, push for lower taxes and fewer taxes in our budget and tax center. We fight for free market health care. We had a book called The Obamacare Disaster by our senior fellow Peter Ferrara.
Another redundancy in
terms, but he wrote it like the instant that thing was passed, and it's turned out to be correct. And we also work for constitutional reform. I don't know if you guys have talked a lot. I imagine you have. The Article 5 movement. And I know it's very contentious on the right. The Heartland Institute sees its role in that debate is not to take any sides. It's just, can we at least agree that the country is almost beyond rescue, that our liberty is so far gone that we have to do something, and that Article 5 is in there. It is the last fail-safe. And so we're trying to bring people together. Let's find out how we can do that. At the
I don't
very
even
least,
know how it's contentious. It's in the Constitution.
Yes.
And you got a bunch of people running around saying that they love and believe in the Constitution, except
that.
Because they don't trust the people, which is all about what we're supposed to be about, right?
Well, now I know where I'm at. Now this is very comfortable. This is nice.
By the way, I am available for consulting at the think tank. Yes.
Oh, you have my card. That'd be fantastic.
I am not.
Okay, good. So we do all sorts of different issues. Our annual budget is only about $6 million a year. Meanwhile, I think Sierra Club spends that much on
postage,
and meals and lunch than we do. Yet we are extremely effective in this because we're going right at what hurts the most: the science. If you can undercut the frankly phony consensus on the science, the idea that the science is settled, if you can cut out that leg, the entire apparatus collapses, in which they want to come after your wallet, they want to come after your land, they want to come after your liberty. And if you can convince people the truth is that we are not causing a climate catastrophe, and the science shows that, they're cooked. And that's why the Heartland Institute is continually a target of these people from all over.
If you didn't have enemies, then you wouldn't be. I wouldn't trust you. I'm known by my enemies, and,
yes,
and that's the reason they come after you, because you are a threat.
Yes, and we are too. You can Google us, and I tell people that's like joking.
Or Bing,
if you prefer, Google or Bing. But I say you can find out what our enemies think of us, but don't believe about 97% of what you hear.
Sure. Mark.
A little bit later on, perhaps I might be getting my own radio show here at SHR. Do you have another card? Because perhaps in another month or so, would you be interested in another interview?
Absolutely.
Because I think this is.
So you threw a book at me and you're throwing cards
those
at you.
cards at you.
Yes.
Yeah,
Come back anytime.
Here, take this, dummy. Yeah, I'm in Vegas after all. Just throwing cards around. It just slipped. You just slipped, Mark. I'm sorry.
I think that was from the bottom of his stack. You better look at that.
That was great. It's too bad this isn't video.
Oh, goodness, I'm sorry. Well, yeah, I'd love to be on the show. I love talking about liberty. I hope your listeners can hear the passion of my voice. I mean, I've been with Heartland since 2008. I used to be. I tell people I'm a recovering journalist. I used to be in the newspaper business. Although I did work for the Washington Times, a fantastic newspaper. But it's a grubby, horrible profession, and I think everybody should avoid it and not believe 97% of what they read in the media.
Yeah, it's about
but
right.
But I now have
Except this show.
Except this show, yes. Well, I'm talking about the print media and mostly the network televisions. But I've been with Heartland since 2008. I've been a full-time warrior for liberty since then, and I get up every day. I am so blessed. I get to fight for my principles, what I believe in, what our founders founded this country to do, which was to give us the room and the mental ability to live free and to live without government with its boot constantly on your neck. I think of it, people, it's so frustrating to see kind of the passivity of the public. The cliche or the image of a boot on someone's neck. I think in America we've come used to at least having a slipper on our neck. It doesn't feel so bad, but it's still on your neck, and you're still not free.
I think they want it.
Yeah, they seem to comfort it. They'll pet it. Maybe they think it's like one of those fuzzy slippers. Isn't this nice?
Franklin was always saying about trading security for safety.
For liberty.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly.
That's right. You'll end up with neither. But every single day you wake up, you're less free than you were the day before.
He said he'd rather live under dangerous freedom.
Right.
That's right.
Jefferson.
Yeah, that's right. That was Jefferson.
That's right. Jefferson's. Yeah.
Rather dangerous freedom than safe. What was the? Dang it!
I just saw it today too.
Dangerous freedom or safe tyranny.
There you go.
You always use that word if you're talking Jefferson.
Right. But just think about the ways we're less free every single day, in ways big and small, since we were children. I'm 46. You guys are much, much older than me.
Thank you for the emphasis.
Yes.
I see it boldened and then italicized.
By the way, is this book in large print?
No, I'll have it read to you slowly.
Thank you.
Or I'll put it on cards and I'll throw them at your chest.
As you do that, you can dab the drool coming out of my... I need a drool cup
That's
right
what these
now,
are
I
for.
think. Yeah, thank you.
It gives time for it to evaporate because of global warming.
Yeah. But millennials today don't even understand that they're less free than I was when I was a teenager. Even for things as small as bike helmets to having a license for this and that.
Oh, everything. I'd like
Everything
to
is
say
less
I'm the only
free.
guy that's gotten free in the last 20 years, and that's because of my divorce. So I consider myself really free. I knew real tyranny. Yes.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Real tyranny. Yes. Yeah.
Will we have historical Alzheimer's?
Alzheimer's.
Yes.
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 Huh?
Yes.
Yes. Today we are with us. Talk.
Somehow I knew you were going to go there. I don't know why.
Yeah. Heartland Institute. Why scientists disagree about global warming.
Have you got a booth here, Jim?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
It's
Alrighty.
number 4 something, I forgot.
Okay.
But it's pretty easy to find.
For those people at Freedom Fest, go see the Heartland Institute booth, and you're over towards the sign-in section over here.
Yep. Yeah, if you just go by the registration desk and count 2 rows and make a right, we're down there.
Okay.
Very easy to find.
If you're listening, you're here at the Freedom Fest, then go see the Heartland Institute. And Jim Lakely, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
All right, excellent.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
You have anything you want to sum up, contact information, any of that? Spill it now.
Sure. You can go to heartland.org and check it. In fact, we're redesigning our website, so we look forward to feedback on that. But it's Heartland, HEARTLAND.org. You can contact me at jlakely@heartland.org, JLAKELY.
Wait, I thought your name was Jim. Now you're changing your name.
It's J, as in the letter J, Lakely.
Oh, okay, all right.
Oh, letter J.
Keep up. Here we go.
This is like Wyatt and Walter again.
I didn't hit.
All right, you guys didn't get it. All right,
Yeah.
never mind.
I
Move
didn't.
on.
I didn't hit you in the head with that card. There's no excuse for that.
Sunspots.
Yeah. Or you can follow us on Twitter, of course, at Heartland Inst, actually.
Title pool.
Yeah. And so, I'd be happy to take any questions or to, from the public and to get you more involved in the liberty movement. The Heartland Institute is in the business of advancing liberty and freedom and protecting what we all need protected, and that's ourselves from government.
There's a thought. When you reprint this, you might want to consider sending out free books to, like, not biology, but what's the name of that science that... I forget what the high schools call this now, the science that would include this kind of stuff.
Climatology?
Earth science.
Earth science.
Earth sciences.
All right.
That you might consider doing that because they'll take free stuff.
Funny you mention it. That's on our list. We're actually shipping about we're getting about 500,000 printed, and we're sending out to every single K through 12 science teacher in the country that we can get on a list. All the college professors too. So whether they think it's junk and I'm not going to read this from you, deniers and all that stuff. It's kind of like anything in marketing. What do you want, a 2% rate on email marketing that you get or flyers that you pass out? If 3%, 5% of teachers look at that and start to rethink what they're forced to teach to their kids, that's worth doing. And as a matter of fact, what we get a lot of is we get a lot of teachers. We do these mailings from time to time that will email us quietly off their work account saying, you know what, thank God you sent this. Do you have any more stuff? Yep. I'd really like to incorporate it in my
I get emails from teachers who say they can't teach what I talk about on my show, but it's enough that they won't teach the global warming myth either.
Yeah.
And I consider that a victory.
Yeah.
But they're afraid for their jobs to go too far.
That's it. How many people behind this are oppressed and know that if they make any conscious statement about something like that, they're done, they're toast.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty scary. I mean,
it is literally oppressive.
Yeah.
And that is where the freedom aspect comes in.
They have to do that, too.
Yes.
It's the only way to survive their information.
I mean, I don't want to, we don't want to bring up Hitler, but I believe it was him or Goebbels that said that, once
big lie.
We know when we teach your children, they're ours forever. And
right.
So,
yes.
And so that's what we have now. We have children who are not educated. They're indoctrinated. They don't even know how to think. They don't question anything. When you and I were young, when you were young, they invented cars, which was fantastic for you, a new thing to do. But when I was young, there was the idea that you should question everything. In college, there was question everything. Now it's like, don't question anything.
No,
and in fact, attack the questioners and put them in jail.
Right. No critical thinking at all.
I was just in Utah visiting my daughter, and we went to the museum up there, the Natural Museum, and there was a display of dinosaurs, Brontosaurus, Velociraptors, everything. And I'm standing there, and my daughter walks up and says, "Anybody you know?"
You turn around and said, "That's not funny."
That looks like Friday's dinner. Yeah. Well, good. I'm glad you have to put me on your list, too, because I like free stuff, yeah. And we'll get you back on. Send me the book, and then we'll read the revision and get you on, and you can push that too.
It'd be my pleasure. Thanks for having me on today, guys. Really appreciate
it.
Yeah,
it's been fun. Stopped by. You're getting a lot of feedback.
Well, he didn't
already
exactly stop by.
Well,
yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Jen. And
thank you,
Heartland Institute, everybody. So that's great. It's always good when you know it all, to find other people that validate what you think.
Yes,
because it's a little lonely out there sometimes. So, all right, guys. This is the Underground Professor, Sans Ken McClenton, the Exceptional Conservative Show. I got Mark with me.
Nice to meet you,
and it's thanks. I see you. Zeppelin. Mike.
That is I.
No truth to the rumor that he's related to lead.
No,
yes.
No. But I do bloviate, and I am Zeppelin-like in appearance.
In appearance, yes.
Hence the name.
Yeah. All right, and you blog.
Yes, I do. I've been blogging since 2004. One question came to mind.
There's a cream for that.
Is there?
Yes,
Are you sure?
Yes.
Is there? But most importantly, is there an app for that?
It's an Obamacare. You have to apply.
No.
You can't get it.
All right.
So tell us about your blog.
I've been blogging since 2004. I, like you, one of my first really significant voting acts was for Reagan, and I can honestly say that I felt pretty much better about my country during Reagan than at most any other time.
Yeah.
I was honored to be able to actually vote for him.
That's the last time I felt like that too.
Yes, it is. I have not felt like that since. Not at all.
I like to tell my students that that's the only president I voted for.
Yes.
Yeah.
Boy, I'll tell you what, is that ever a statement. Long time ago in a galaxy far, far away in the 60s, my civics teacher, Mr. Helms, told me, and I think it's true, Democrats don't win elections, Republicans lose them.
Yeah. Yep.
And boy, did that ever stick with me. That stuck with me for literally years. This is the first time I've met you.
Yes.
And because I've never been associated with SHR, and there are so many good people around the internet, and terrestrial radio is I'm unfortunately thinking it's on its way out. But you are proof that there are incredible people on this medium, on the streaming medium, that make people on terrestrial radio look like blithering morons. And so it's a pleasure for me to meet you. I'd never seen or heard of you before. I mean, I heard these two gentlemen right here, Sean and Clint, talk about you in passing, but only in passing.
Well, by joining SHR Media, I raised the IQ to double digits.
I would say at least that, and then
I did come down a little bit.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
It's a damn big curtain.
Go ahead.
So
we were talking about me.
Yes, it's all about me. It's all about me. So you have a show on every day?
No, I used to, but it just got to be overwhelming. So I do shows. Underground Professor Show is Sundays at 6 to 8 p.m. Central Texas time, and Thursdays I do my show 7 to 8 Central, and then I join Ken for 2 hours. So I do 5 hours a week.
Excuse me while I pull the business card of Jim's out of my neck where he threw it at me.
It reminds me of that guy on Marvel Comics, the Ace or whatever you called him, the one that threw the cards.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So do you still teach?
No, this is my classroom now. Yeah, I went on sabbatical and I never went back.
Oops.
And because I thought I'm teaching 50 people at a time, and I'm fighting uphill, and I'm thinking about going back to teaching again. And in fact, I'm planning on it. I'm in 2 years, I think I'm going to go back and start teaching again.
And the Constitution is your specialty.
Yeah, that's my specialty. So my specialty is the War of Insurrection, which is what the British called the American Revolution.
Well, let me ask you this then, and I would wager that you've probably been asked this before. I don't have the answer. I used to think that I had an idea maybe 10 years ago where this nation was going. Now I really have no idea. So the question to you is, where do you think we're going?
That is an actually great question, because I think all of my life I could have told you that instantly where I thought we were going.
Yes.
But all of a sudden now I'm scared to death.
I honestly don't know.
Yeah, I tremble for my country, to quote Jefferson again. And
you have kids?
Yes, 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's for them and their generations in the future that I fear. I don't have kids. I have dogs. And so in that regard, I lucked out. But for people that are parents, what are we doing to ruin this once wonderful country for their future?
I tell my students that we have one responsibility as citizens of this country. The Constitution guarantees a Republican form of government, and our one duty as citizens of this country is to pass on to our progeny a Republican form of government.
Okay, can I stop you there just for a minute? This is Ken's show.
Well,
okay,
mostly.
All right.
On Thursdays we share, but
And you've probably said this before, and because you have a burgeoning audience, for those who may have just tuned in, people think that this nation is a democracy.
Well, it kills me.
And you hear it all the time. Can you please explain the difference, the salient difference between a republic, as you said, if we can keep it, and a democracy?
Well, a democracy can be best defined as simply mob rule. All right? I use the example that a democracy is 2 wolves and a sheep debating lunch, and deciding, by democracy, who's going to be lunch, right? So That's what a democracy is. It's mob rule. It's a majority wins. But even worse, a democracy requires that all citizens vote on everything. So if Congress needs more paper clips, then we would all have to come and vote for it. Or if they want to build a bridge, we all have to come and vote. And you hear everybody wants a democracy, and yet these same people go around and complain about voter fatigue. We have too many elections in this country, and we need to back off on that. And I'm thinking, but you guys are the ones pushing democracy, right?
Right. You're insisting that it comes to a creaking halt.
Exactly. Oh, Gambit, by the way, was the guy that throws the gotcha, Gambit.
Sent you. Okay.
That's very important. So we touched that. So the thank you, Ag. The type of government we have here isn't simply a republic. When Franklin was asked that, he's misquoted as saying a republic because that's the short version. He said we have a constitutionally federated republic, madam, if we can keep it.
Okay. And you'd mentioned that earlier.
Yes, CFR. And that is like my one bone that I always push on everybody is say that because no one knows it. And that's you cannot define our government succinctly and adequately by adding or subtracting those three words. Anything more, you're bloviating. Anything less, you've missed it. We have a constitution which derives what we say government is allowed to do with our borrowed power. We don't ever surrender sovereignty in this country. We are the sovereigns. We allow government to do certain things on our behest because it's easier for a government to do things like protect our borders against, invasion. And so we allow that sovereignty to be temporarily ceded to them. And we have, so the Constitution is the rule book of what government is allowed to do and not do. And I like to point out that there's only 7 enumerated powers.
Yes.
And yet, tell me one thing government doesn't control, tax, or regulate. And you realize we have a problem. Just those 2 things you can't resolve. We have a problem. We need to fix it, no matter what side of the politics you're on. We are federated. Now, no longer do we know what that means because the progressives, the Fabian socialists came over and they pushed these words, democracy, because they wanted to change the debate and make it so that we weren't talking about being a republic anymore, because that changes your viewpoint on your government. We're constitutionally federated. Federal is now, we thought, if I ask you about federal government, what are you going to tell me? Where is it?
The first thing you think of is D.C.
Right. Only thing you think of. You think of feds. You think of the FBI.
Correct.
Right. So, federated to someone in the 1780s that were debating the Constitution would understand without a hesitation that a federated government means that you have the 13 colonies, which were now states, which is why in America we call a state, like Texas a state, whereas Germany would call Germany a state. And we have this disconnect. We don't really understand the difference.
All right.
But there is no difference. Texas, or what? How much time? 30 seconds. Oh, well, states were sovereign countries back then. And so what we had was we put all the states together and we put the central government together. So it's constantly federated republic. We hire people to go and be our servants to run our government, to control the things that we need so that we can live our lives and pursue happiness. This is Mark...
Bloviating Zeppelin.
Zeppelin, yes. MBV, as we like to say, and the underground
BZ.
professor. Yes.
Close enough.
Close enough. That all looks alike.
Yes.
And in fact, we do look alike. Santa-looking guys here. On behalf of Ken McClenton and the double sackheads, because one may fall off, I think we're moving into your show next, right, guys? We are. All right. So I apologize to everybody in advance for that. And by the way, I just want to reach out and say I am having an amazing time with all these guys.
It's a great time.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. And I don't care what I've said about Sean in the past.
And I won't repeat it.
Yes. What?
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.